a pencil and paper or anything else because you won't be needing it. Your work for this exercise is going to be done in your mind, in your heart, and your thoughts. And it's about the spirit of Christmas, the real spirit of Christmas. It's not about gifts and stuff and buying and stuff. It's about the spirit of giving, which makes us want to be a part of the circulation of God's love. But we don't want to lose the spiritual. That's what so many people are missing, and that is something that cannot be bought no matter how much money you have. You'll notice, again, the scenery has changed a little bit. This is something that's very precious to me. It's a little nativity. Let me bring you in a little closer. Hopefully you'll be able to see it a little bit better. Oh, no, because you're not going to. I'll lift it up so you can see it a little bit better. Here we go. This is a nativity that my sister made for me. She knit it many years ago. I would say it's probably, well over 40 years old. And we have Joseph, and we have the angel, and we have Mary. We have little baby Jesus here, and we have two little sheep. Now, I have had this little nativity in this little basket for so many years. As I said, probably going on 40 years I've had it. And it's so special to me because it is everything I love about Christmas. My sister made it for me, so that makes it very special. The fact that it is the nativity. At one time, I collected nativity scenes. I had all kinds. I had so many every time I moved. It was horrible because half the boxes were nativities. I have a few now, and they're all very special. This one, of course, is the one my sister gave me, so that makes it extra special, and that she made it for me. So it has love as well as spiritual meaning. What we're talking about in this exercise is feeling spiritually alive. When was the last time that you really felt spiritually alive? What does being spiritually alive, what does that really mean anyway? To me, it means feeling connected to something greater. It is beyond our typical day-to-day experience. You know, our day-to-day experience, we think, we act, we do. We have emotions and things that drive us. However, spirituality, our spiritual nature reaches above the human. In other words, we have emotions. That is a human experience, is an emotion. We think of emotion, energy in motion. Now, beyond emotion is the sensing nature. It's that something that you feel inside. Thinking is our thought process, whereas intuitively knowing. See, there's that sensing, which is feeling of spirit, and intuition, intuitively knowing that Spirit's presence is there. Spirit's presence is always there. We're just not fully aware of it. To tell you a little story that really was a moment that I was so spiritually attuned. See, you don't have to be in church for this to happen. That's real important for you to know. You know, it's like Joyce Meyer says, you know, you can sit in the garage all you want, but it's not going to make you a car. Sitting in church all you want is not going to necessarily give you a spiritual experience. This particular spiritual experience I had, I was at the Grand Canyon. And if you haven't been there, there are like overlooks. The whole canyon has craggy kind of overlooks, and I don't go anywhere near the edge, even if it's got a big railing, and I definitely avoid looking down anywhere close to the edge. Well, there on this particular day at the Grand Canyon, there was a group of young people, and I can't believe it, sometimes young people, they make me crazy, they were sitting dangling their feet over the edge of the overlook. They were what we call hippie, even though it wasn't that long ago, they were that hippie look, you know, long-haired, very kind of country-ish. And they had a dog with a bandana around it. It was just total hippie. And they were playing and singing Christian folk songs. Well, quarter of a mile away, there was another big overlook. And on that overlook was a gathering of Asian tourists. And they stood there and they started to sing Amazing Grace. And as their voices singing Amazing Grace mingled with our little friends on the overlook dangling their feet over singing their Christian folk songs, everything came together in the most beautiful spiritual experience, one of the greatest I've ever had. When was the last time you felt like that? Enjoying the holidays is an ongoing volley of working between social and cultural and human activities and spiritual experience. So we want to balance our social and spiritual. Very often we get so into social that it kind of edges out the spiritual. There's an old acronym for ego, which is edging God out. And of course, ego is that part of us that puts ourself first all the time. If we put our little self, our ego, first all the time, we are definitely going to edge God out. So you want to be thinking about how can you have more of this spiritual, this intuitive, sensing kind of experience as opposed to a dotting the I's, crossing the T's, buying the stuff, following along like the little robot, doing Christmas, what am I supposed to do? Party, go shopping, and it just makes you crazy. So how can you get into that spiritual thing? I think you have to sit down, and this is where you do this on your own, and ponder in your heart, what are the kind of things that make you feel very, very spiritual? If you think about it long enough, you will find those moments where you felt uplifted. Were you at the theater? Were you watching the Nutcracker? Were you sitting by a fire with a loved one? These are spiritual experiences if they're not, all directed toward the ego, toward the human part. Now, I said earlier about, sitting in church isn't going to make you spiritual or give you a spiritual experience necessarily. It can, and very often it does. That midnight mass experience, oh my stars, the fragrance of the incense, the lowered lights, all the flowers, all the beauty of it. In the churches I served, more than once, we did a living nativity. If we had a baby in church, we did a living nativity. It didn't matter if the wise men and Jesus and the angels and everything were wrapped in bathrobes with towels on their heads. When you approached that scene to say a prayer and give your offering, man, you were right by the actual nativity. You see, it can be anywhere. You cannot buy it. Spiritual experiences cannot be bought. Spiritual experiences will never let you down. I want to tell you about an experience that I had many, many years ago when I lived in California. At that time, all my kids were in Connecticut. I was out there all by myself, and it was Christmas. I was going to be alone for the holidays, so I had 2 jobs to keep me busy, but I never really connected with a lot of people, to do party stuff and like that. Yes, I did have my church activities, thank goodness. They were wonderful. But my home had no Christmas in it. And I thought maybe I would just leave it that way, that I just wouldn't do Christmas that year. But then I looked out, and there was a little evergreen tree out in my yard. And I thought about the real meaning of Christmas. I thought about, what are we celebrating? Yes, we do love to share our Christmas with our families. It's wonderful and everything. But we are celebrating the coming to our lives, to our hearts, to our world, the consciousness of Christ, of someone who touched my heart and changed my life with his powerful teaching. So I was also kind of short on funds that year. I ran down to Pick and Save, which was even cheaper than the Dollar Tree. And I got some bows. I probably spent $3 on little velvet kind of bows. I ran out that day, and I took those little bows, and I put them all over that little evergreen in my yard. time I looked at it, my heart swelled, and I remembered the real meaning for the season. Our spirituality is the real reason for the season. So spend some time now